The night the city shook. Nobody knew the two men who hated each other most would become the two who would change everything. Adrian Kane lay on the cold rooftop, lights flickering, smoke rising, sirens echoing from somewhere far below. He tasted blood, felt the burn in his lungs, heard the crackling of flames behind him. His helicopter had exploded before takeoff. Someone wanted him dead. But before darkness pulled him under, a shadow moved toward him. Firm steps, no hesitation. Elias Ward. The man who had sworn to ruin him. The man Adrian once believed destroyed his family. Tonight, that same enemy was kneeling beside him, holding Adrian's head steady, pressing on his wound to keep him alive. "Don't close your eyes," Elias said softly, too softly for someone who was supposed to hate him. Adrian managed a broken whisper. "You again? Even when I don't want saving?" Elias swallowed. "You think I want this?" A beat, a troubled exhale. "I just can't watch it happen." Rain hit them harder, washing blood across the pavement, and the world blurred. But to understand why this man, this enemy, would run into fire to save a billionaire, we go back to where their war began. 6 months earlier. A stormy morning. The Kane Empire towers stood like a blade of glass slicing the clouds. Inside, the top-floor office was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Adrian Kane stood alone, staring at a file so old, so dusty, it carried the scent of forgotten guilt. It was the file that ruined Elias Ward's life. But today, after a long investigation, Adrian finally knew the truth. The file was forged. Elias never stole from the Kane Corporation, never sabotaged the deal, never betrayed anyone. Adrian's father had orchestrated it all to eliminate Elias's mentor and blame the apprentice. Adrian felt something twist in his chest. For a man known for his calmness, his fingers shook as he closed the file. A whisper escaped him. "What have we done?" He had destroyed a man's life. A man who then spent 5 years hunting him, exposing his empire, sabotaging his deals, because he believed Adrian had framed him. And Adrian believed Elias was guilty. Both men were wrong, and neither knew how deep the truth went. Elias Ward walked alone, hood up, jaw set. A man who had learned to survive with scars instead of apologies. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a villain. He was a survivor, shaped by betrayal. Tonight, he wasn't looking for a fight. He was looking for answers, and every clue pointed back to the Kane Tower. He slipped through the underground entrance like a ghost. No hesitation, no fear. He had lived through worse. Adrian stepped out of the elevator at the exact moment Elias approached his car. Their eyes met across the dim lighting. Adrian froze. Elias didn't. He simply held up a flash drive. "I'm not here for revenge tonight. I'm here for the truth." Adrian inhaled slowly. His voice was steady, but his heart wasn't. "Follow me." They walked together. Not as partners, not as friends, but as two men finally ready to stop running. A secured room, multiple screens, fingerprint locks. Adrian inserted the flash drive. Elias leaned forward, arms crossed. The truth played out on screen. Emails, signatures, fake transactions, orders from Adrian's father, forcing Elias into poverty, destroying his reputation, all to protect the elder Kane's empire. Elias's jaw tightened. So that's it.
I lost everything because of a man who died a hero in the news? Adrian looked at him, not as an enemy, but as a man broken by someone else's crimes. I can't undo the past, but I can make this right. Elias turned away. You think justice erases 5 years? No, Adrian replied softly. But truth can stop the bleeding. Elias didn't answer. Not yet. But something cracked open. Not forgiveness, not trust. Just space. Space for the story to change. They begin investigating Adrian's father's network, old board members, hidden deals, dirty partners. Together, they're unstoppable. But working together doesn't erase tension, it magnifies it. Files everywhere. Coffee cups. Screens showing documents. Elias looks up from a folder. You know, I used to imagine what I'd say if I ever stood in the same room with you. Adrian lifts his eyes. What did you imagine?
That I'd break your nose, Elias said plainly. Adrian chuckled softly. Understandable. Elias smirked. The first real smirk Adrian ever saw from him. But then Elias's expression softened. But now that I know the truth, I don't even know what to feel anymore. Adrian's voice was quiet. Same here. And for a moment, two once bitter enemies sat in the same silence as two broken sons, hurt by the same man. A rare, quiet moment, the kind that makes viewers inhale deeply. They weren't the only ones digging. Someone inside the old corruption ring was watching them, tracking them, preparing a hit. Not on Adrian, not first. On Elias. Adrian discovered the warning one night, an encrypted message directing a hired group to erase Elias Ward permanently. Adrian's face paled. He rushed to Elias, grabbing his wrist. You have to disappear. Elias pulled away. I'm not running again. They will kill you. They've been trying, Elias snapped. This is not new. Adrian's voice cracked. It is to me. Elias froze. That changed something. Adrian was boarding his helicopter. He thought the rooftop was secure. It wasn't. The explosion hit like a punch of light. Shrapnel broke the air. Heat surged. Adrian's body hit the ground. His vision dimmed. But before unconsciousness swallowed him, Elias burst through the smoke, dragging him, shielding him, fighting off attackers with nothing but determination and instinct. Get up, Adrian! Stay with me! Adrian groaned. You should have let me die. Elias's voice shook. And lose the only person who ever tried to make things right? A long pause. No. I'm done losing. His hands pressed firmly on Adrian's wound. You live. Do you hear me? You live. Sirens, rain, shadows, breathing, darkness. Darkness fades slowly, shapes forming, voices blending into a distant echo. Adrian Kane opened his eyes to a blurry ceiling. White lights, sterile air, steady heart monitor beeping somewhere near his ear. A hospital room. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through his side. Then he heard it. Not a doctor, not a nurse. A familiar voice. You should stay down. You're stitched together like fragile glass.
Adrian turned his head. Elias Ward was sitting in the corner, arms folded, leaning forward, eyes red from lack of sleep, but fiercely alert. Adrian blinked. You stayed? Elias shrugged lightly, but the truth hid in his expression. You almost died. Someone had to make sure you didn't try it again.
Adrian exhaled a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "Is that your way of saying you care?" Elias looked away. "It's my way of saying I'm not done figuring out why we were targeted." Adrian studied him. Slowly, quietly. "You saved my life." Elias didn't respond. Not with words, but something unspoken filled the room. Thick, complicated, human. The doctor explained the injuries: a fractured rib, deep cuts, concussion symptoms. But Adrian wasn't listening to the medical details. He was focused on one thing. The attack wasn't random. It was planned, precise, timed perfectly for when he'd be alone. Elias stood next to him, shoulder tense. The doctor left. Silence settled. "You think this was for me?" Elias said. "It was," Adrian replied. "It started with you, but I was the easier target." Elias lowered his eyes. "I never asked you to get involved." "But you did," Adrian said quietly. "The moment you walked into my parking lot that night, you pulled me into your war." Elias didn't deny it. Adrian refused security escorts. He wanted no police, no reporters, only Elias. A strange decision, but a necessary one. He trusted Elias more than the people on his own payroll. The penthouse was dimly lit. Elias moved cautiously, studying every corner. "You live like a king," Elias muttered. Adrian smirked. "An isolated king is still lonely." Elias paused. "You ever think your wealth kept you surrounded, but never connected?" Adrian's smile faded slowly. "Every day." For a moment, they weren't billionaire and enemy. Just two men, broken in different ways. Adrian's boardroom was filled with executives. Suits, ties, cold stares. Adrian entered with a cane. Elias followed behind him like a silent storm. Gasps, whispers, nervous shifting. "Is that? Why is he here?" "That's Elias Ward, a criminal." Adrian slammed his cane against the floor. "Enough." The room fell silent. Adrian walked to the table, pain etched in his posture, but power in his voice. "Elias Ward was framed by my father, and I will restore everything that was taken from him."
The board erupted in shock. One man, Mr. Dalton, stood abruptly. "This is absurd! Your father built this empire." "My father lied," Adrian said firmly. "He destroyed a man's life to protect his own interests." Another voice chimed in. "He was a visionary." "He was corrupt," Adrian snapped. "And he nearly got me killed." Gasps filled the room. Elias stepped forward. "Someone inside this organization hired a hit team. They wanted me gone, and Adrian was collateral." Everyone stared at him with a mix of fear and disbelief. Adrian scanned the room slowly. "Which one of you is still working for my father's old partners?" Silence. But behind that silence, guilt screamed. One pair of eyes didn't look away. "Mr. Dalton." Adrian noticed. Elias noticed. A clock started ticking in both their minds. Elias leaned against the mirrored wall. "You see the way Dalton reacted?" Adrian nodded. "He's hiding something." "Then let's squeeze it out of him." Adrian shook his head. "No, he's smart. He won't talk unless he feels safe." Elias smirked. "People always talk when they either feel safe or know they're losing." Adrian stared at him. "Which one do you prefer?" Elias's smirk deepened. "Losing." They didn't torture him. They didn't threaten him. They invited him for coffee. A simple conversation in Adrian's private lounge. Dalton sat stiffly. Elias leaned casually against the wall. "So," Adrian began, "who paid the team that attacked me?" Dalton blinked innocently. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Elias spoke for the first time. "Lie again. I dare you." Dalton swallowed. Adrian leaned forward. "Dalton, you owe my father loyalty. I understand that. But he's gone, and whatever promises he made to you died with him." Dalton hesitated, then whispered, "You don't understand." "Then explain," Adrian said. Dalton's hands trembled. He wasn't working alone. The air changed. Elias straightened. "There are still others?" he asked. "More than you know," Dalton whispered. "They called themselves the Meridian Circle." Adrian felt a chill trace his spine. What do they want? Dalton met his eyes, fear consuming his expression. "To finish what your father started." A long silence. "And what did he start?" Adrian asked softly. Dalton exhaled shakily. "Total control." Elias paced.
The Meridian Circle? Never heard of them. Neither have I, Adrian admitted. Elias looked at him. So your father had a secret group, and they're still active. Adrian nodded slowly. And they want to finish his work. Elias stopped pacing, which means we're both targets. Adrian looked down. Elias? Elias turned. What? Adrian's voice softened. You shouldn't have to go through this because of my family. Elias stepped closer. Don't say that. We're past that stage. Adrian lifted his eyes. Are we? Elias held his gaze. Yes. A beat. Long. Unbroken. Then Elias said, Get some rest. We have a war to plan tomorrow. Adrian woke at 3 a.m. Elias had insisted on staying in the guest room, just in case. Tonight proved him right. A faint click came from the kitchen, then footsteps. Adrian froze, but before he could call out, Elias burst out of the hallway at full speed. Stay back, he yelled. Shadows moved. A figure lunged. Another slipped through the back door. Elias pinned one to the floor before the intruder slipped away with surprising skill. They vanished into the night. Adrian rushed over. You okay? Elias breathed hard. Yeah, but that wasn't a robbery. They were searching for something. Adrian looked around. What? Elias scanned the room. I don't know, but they didn't take anything visible. Then he noticed it, a loose panel near the floor. Elias knelt and pried it open. Inside was a small black envelope, unmarked, hidden for years. Adrian's face paled. That's my father's handwriting. Elias stepped back. Open it. Adrian hesitated, then tore the seal. Inside was a single line written in ink. If you find this, the war has already begun. Adrian's voice trembled slightly. He knew. He knew they'd come after me. Elias took the note, and he left this hidden instead of telling you himself. A pause, a frustrated exhale. He left you in the dark. Adrian closed his eyes. He left me a target.
The city stretched far below. Adrian stood at the edge, wind tugging at his clothes. Elias joined him silently. "You think running is still an option?" Elias asked. Adrian shook his head. "No. If I run, they'll hunt us both." Elias nodded. "So we fight." Adrian turned to him. "Together." Elias held his gaze, firm, unmoving. "Together." Then Elias said, "And Adrian, you're not alone in this. Not anymore." If you enjoyed this story, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Golden Billionaire Stories, where every tale drips with luxury, power, and passion. Because here, love always comes with a price.